my kid button it up, or I'll button it up, or you button it up, whatever.
Either way,
Someone will button it up.
I can swing by.
But it fired right up and went out and sorted
It's
it out.
like nothing. I don't know. I think it was because we were like, good. I think it's because of that. We were like, because when I pulled the latch, I saw like water sitting in there. I was like, I bet you we were drowning in the engine. Because now I went and I was like, oh my gosh, and then I turned right on.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If everyone can please stand and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so first on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, do we have anything to add or take away from this evening's agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone joining us this evening that would like to make public comment to something that is not on this evening's agenda? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
I don't usually go first, but based on what Nancy Pattison, 2104 Gorham Drive Southeast, East Grand Rapids, I heard about the lawmakers in Minnesota from Representative Skaggs at the No Kings rally on Saturday, and it was like just really choked up, and I think each and every one of you had to have thoughts about that. Second thoughts, maybe third thoughts, and my heart goes out to you as civil servants. I kind of understand because I'm a retired psychiatrist, and at that time, psychiatrists were the most murdered physician worldwide. And my house still has the name of the previous owner on it. I did not take it down. In case a patient wanted to come track me down, they'd see, oh, that's not Pattison. Okay. So it's just a little, maybe false line of defense, but my heart goes out to you. So, oh, no light, no overhead. Turning on. Each time I come to talk about the PUD, I've learned more and more. And I've had problems with transparency coming from you folks in the past. And as a domestically challenged individual, when I tried to clean up, look what I found from March. So I actually did go to those sites on the March 2025 water bill and did some reading. That was a lot more interesting than these documents that came with the water bill that looked like they say something, but they really don't give much information at all. Reading the Ethics Book Club book this month, Birding to Change the World, I found out about a park in Madison, Wisconsin that was saved by Trish O'Kane and her people. And one of the take-home messages from that is ecology is very important. I've seen the footprint of the development. There's a lot of sidewalk and a lot of pavement, and all that's going to be runoff, and it's going to go somewhere. It's got to go to the lowest level. It's going to go into the lake. And you need to think about what climate change is going to do to rainfall. I really think we need to look to the future to make sure we know exactly what that development is going to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm Jerry Anderson, 435 Edgemere Drive Southeast.
So communication on this current PUD over the last several months has been like this. You give the residents 3-minute time box every 2 weeks where we get to say something, we can't ask questions, and you're not allowed to give feedback. Your communication to the residents has been for those who have the skill and the inclination. They can find on the city website attachments to the agenda packets for the commission meetings, and they can read things that were prepared by city employees but not by the commissioner. I don't think anybody would call that good communication. As a person whose career depended on trusting relationships and good communication, it doesn't look anything like this. This is one-way street and then one-way street. But given those limitations, a number of us have gone back and looked at the input that you've received over the past several months on this and tried to consolidate it and to put it into some sort of an order that we think is useful to you. And I have a printed copy of that I would like to hand to each of you. And we believe it represents the perspective of a large majority of your constituents, and we ask that you please read it and refer to it before going ahead and giving away the last bit of influence that you have. You're the only people with influence on this, but please don't give away the last bit of influence that you have on this development. If you do, the picture that I see 6 years from now is you are going to find a hard-earned parking space. You're going to go into the development between buildings C and D. You're going to be in a 70-foot canyon. You're going to look ahead at a 70-foot glass and metal building, Building E in front of you. You're going to be surrounded by parking spaces and cars, no green space in sight, no green except what's growing in pots around, no community meeting space as you envisioned, and you're going to say to yourself, how did I let this happen? This is not what we pictured for the people of East Grand Rapids. So I ask you, please, look at what the residents have been trying to tell you. This is just a different way of presenting it, but look at what we've been trying to tell you for the past several months and resist giving away the influence that you have just to make this go away quicker. Thanks. It's not going away. So here's a copy for each of you. I will also send a digital copy to put online, if that's okay. You want me to just hand them to Lori? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Would anyone else care to make public comment?
Good evening, David Decker, 925 Belle Claire Avenue in Ward Number 1. Just wanted to highlight one of the areas of the document that Jerry just provided regarding parking and the commitment that the developer made in 2004 to continue to provide parking to the city and city residents. I've spoken about parking a couple other times when I've provided comments. And just want to reemphasize, and Ryan and Kate, I would like to follow up with you as well, how we go about finding that balanced parking, where people that live in the PUD have the opportunity to park outside where the city residents park, and where people who are city residents or visitors have the opportunity to park in the parking within the PUD. Balanced and fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Decker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, city staff, I don't see the chief, but commissioners and mayor. My name is Judith Baxter. I've spoken many times here about the Gaslight Village development. I'm here to speak again and sort of following up on what Mr. Anderson says, is that the community, I don't feel, is getting the feedback and the communication that it deserves from its elected representatives. We have asked repeatedly for a public hearing. We've had one in February. We haven't had one since then. This is the most important issue that's arisen for East Grand Rapids ever. And we've had one public hearing, and if you recall that public hearing, It filled the school theater building, and people waited 2 hours after the developer spoke to speak. That shows a lot of interest by the community and a determination to be heard. We have asked repeatedly for a public hearing and have heard nothing back from anybody about that. We have asked repeatedly to have either a question and answer session with the commissioners to find out what questions the commissioner has, how we can work together to come up with a positive development that meets the community's atmosphere and charisma and what makes East Grand Rapids, and we're not getting it. It's very frustrating. It shows a lack of transparency on the part of the city commission for you to just sit up there and listen for 3 minutes and then nothing. So I'm up here again to ask for better communication. I think better communication would help if we had a public hearing. I don't think we'll be doing much of a public hearing in the middle of the summer now when everybody's gone and out and doing their summer business. But I think we should have a public hearing in the beginning of September on this matter. I think the community deserves it. I think your constituents deserve it. I think your constituents deserve to be heard on this. They have a say on this. This is their community. They have a right to have a say in what comes here. They don't have a right. There is nothing here to allow them to be dictated to about what's going to be here. So I again ask that we have better communication and ask that we have another public hearing, maybe 2, on this development before any decision is made on the concept plan. Mayor, I know you keep saying this is the beginning of the process, but the concept plan, if it's admitted, has some finality to it on what happens with this. And we've pointed out in Mr. Anderson's document and numerous presentations here in front of the commission that it has some finality in several issues here. It's not just the beginning of where you can work with the developer and make changes here and tweaks there and do that, because the developer doesn't want to do that. He's shown that repeatedly over time. He showed that in the Walker lawsuit case. He will show it here. There's no reason to think that he won't. So please, give the community some feedback. Let the community be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baxter.
Oh, I don't know if I introduced myself, but if I need to do that, I'm Judith Baxter.
I think you did.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Square. I live on 2925 Oakwood Drive, Southeast, and I've been a resident in East Grand Rapids for over 30 years now. I raised my family here. My kids went to the school, elementary school, middle school, high school, and I think this might be the first time I've ever actually talked to the city commissioners, and I'm a little ashamed of that, but I'm also proud of that because that means that the city, and I've told this to my friends multiple times, the city just doesn't do dumb things. All right, they're conservative in a good way in that they don't jump into things, and they're thoughtful, and they do things that really are good for the residents of the city. And I have a lot of trust in the way this city is run. And I really have nothing negative to say about living in East Grand Rapids, and I hope to die here. My wife may not agree with that. She kind of maybe wants to move someplace before we die other than East Grand Rapids, but I would be happy to die in East Grand Rapids. I love this city. And I'm a little bit late coming to this party. I really wish I would have shown up in February. I wasn't paying close enough attention, and so just really in the last couple weeks, I looked at the plan, and it's a big deal. This is not a minor thing. This is big. And so I just really encourage everybody to take your time and make sure people are aware of this, because this is going to change this entire community that I love. And so I admit, if there's something that I love, I don't necessarily want to change it. You got to really convince me that it's going to somehow make the life of people, the life in this community better, and not just benefit a handful of people. So I'm just encouraging everybody to please listen, slow down, try to get as much feedback as you can. I've got concerns already. Some of them have already been voiced. Environmental, traffic. I tend to live close to Lake Drive, and I drive to work every day. I'm an engineer, by the way, at GE Aviation. And so I drive on Lake Drive every day, and the traffic's already getting kind of bad sometimes. And so I think, wow, what will this do to this traffic? And what will it do to the high school and the middle school and the parents that are dropping their kids off at the middle school? And so, yeah, please get as much feedback as you can, try to communicate what's going on, and listen to the people in the city like you have done so well in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lynette Square, and I have to say I concur with everything that has been said before me, so I will try not to duplicate the things that were said prior in this evening. But seeing that, yes, it is such a large development, and I've been looking and reviewing the plan, and yes, we're the city of Grand Rapids, but in the introduction to this plan, it talks about urban planning. And I know, maybe they're using the word urban in a different way than most people think of urban. We're in the city of Grand Rapids, but to pretty much everybody that I know that lives here and desires to live here, looks at it as more of a suburb. The way the homes are, the way the streets are designed, the way the school is, it's more got the feeling of a suburb. People don't, as far as I know, and I don't know if I'm a super large amount of people, but they don't come here looking for what's generally considered an urban environment. And so I think if the whole concept of this somehow includes or revolves around creating a mini urban area, as probably most people understand it, I don't think, and looking at the proposed plan, it does not meet some of these criteria, that it should be harmonious with the character of the adjacent property, the surrounding uses of the land, the natural environment, and the capacity of public services affected by the development. So I think there's several aspects of this plan that should be reviewed and given a lot more time for public comment about what people think. And I think there needs to be a better outreach to people. And I think the little note in the water bill was a good start. But I didn't know about this project until I received a separate postcard in the mail that didn't actually come from the city. Came from some people's personal efforts to get the word out. So I think so far it has not been effective communication about what's going on. And I think there's a lot to consider, and I think there's a lot of valid concerns. And I would like to see, yes, another community-wide meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm Niall Deems, 701 Laurel Circle. Just a couple quick thoughts. You're looking at whether or not to approve a PUD as an amendment to your zoning ordinance. The PUD is discretionary. There's nothing that says you have to approve it. This isn't like something that meets the requirements of a C1 district, and so it meets all the requirements, and so the party that owns it wants to build on it, has a right to. This is something that the city commission gets to look at and see, okay, is this enough of a benefit to the city that we're going to amend our zoning ordinance to create something different? And because of that, you have to do it in compliance with your PUD ordinance, and it has those several sections that tell you it can't be detrimental to the adjacent properties. And so you're judging for the benefit of the community and whether or not it's detrimental to the adjacent neighborhoods. And so as you look at this, you need to consider all that, because once you start into the approval process, and as you undoubtedly noticed, I'm concerned if you get into conceptual approval, because once you grant some approval, and you may think you got some good wording, that if you don't meet all these and those conditions, we can deny you, you don't get your final permit. Well, that statement in its simplistic form is correct, except, you know, that's where lawyers send all their kids to college. You think you've drafted something that says if this doesn't meet the conditions, we can deny it. But you've given a conceptual approval, as your zoning administrator has said, that gives reasonable assurance to the developer they can go ahead with their plan. And believe me, when you try to sort out what reasonable assurance meant, and then argue about whether or not those were conditions you could deny, you are just going to get lost in a bevy of court briefs and arguments, and you have a power and ability to negotiate that's very strong before you give any approvals, and once you give some, you could be just right down the rabbit hole. That's where Walker is right now with that project that's very similar to this one. The lawsuit's 2 years old already. So please think about all this as you go forward, and good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Deems.
Hey, everybody. My name's Janet Deach. I live at 562 Greenwood. I just show up because I'm really concerned about this. And one of the things that's hard is I don't know what you guys think, you know, and so it's like we keep trying to tell you what we think, but we don't know what you think. So I don't know if this is possible to have a work group that has community members and you guys sit down and really hash out what would be the best for this community. I don't know, but it's just, I'm not frustrated, it's just hard because you guys might agree with all of us or you might think that we're crazy, I don't know. But, so it would be nice at some point to know what you guys are thinking. And they spent a lot of time on the document that Jerry brought. It's phenomenal. I mean, it has a lot of, it's not opinion. It's a lot of information. I really encourage you guys to read it. So thank you. Appreciate all you guys are doing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that cared to make public comment to something not on this evening's agenda? Now's the time to do so. Do you feel some pressure? Okay. So then I will close public comment at this time and bring it up to a report of mayor and city commissioners, including committee liaison reports. I will start with Commissioner Skaggs.
Great. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Nothing much today. Just encourage everyone to come out on Wednesday for the Wealthy Street Sidewalk Social. It's a really fun summer event. Hopefully the weather will hold off for it. And just wanted to thank the city and the utilities for swift action. There was a sinkhole this morning out front of our house. So just really appreciate everyone leaping into action quickly to manage that situation and get it under wraps.
Commissioner Burdick? Do you have anything?
Nothing serious. I just would like to recognize and congratulate the East Grand Rapids boys lacrosse team. The Friday after our last meeting, they played in and won another, I think, their 7th state championship. So it was a big day for them.
Yeah, that's great. Commissioner Wesley?
I don't have a ton. I just wanted to well, first of all, thank everyone for coming out. Obviously, and I think that the last person that made a comment asking for our personal opinion, I think that we all have our own personal opinion. I don't want to take up the whole time talking about my personal opinion, so I'd say, hey, call me. My number and email's online. Happy to talk through that, I think. But what's most important, what I guess the reason why you haven't really heard a ton of our opinion is because at the end of the day, it's really a legal decision that we're faced with to go, okay, We have a new concept plan. Does that fit within that construct of the old PUD? There's a lot that goes on in our world that is that kind of prepares us, and there's a lot of documents to read. It's a lot of information to digest. But it boils down to it's a legal decision. Does it match the standards, meet the standards? Again, it may seem vague, and I know the process seems. Some people are saying, "Hey, it's going too fast." We had this on our docket, on our plate for about a year and a half-ish or something. I don't know, it's about a year. I want to appreciate the hardworking people on the Planning Commission that teed up, I would say, a good chunk of it, and then came to us with some really solid ideas of conditions that we should attach to the approval of the concept plan, which I really appreciate. And I trust in them. It's almost like this tango that we play, because the concept plan is just enough to say, hey, what we're understanding is, does that match? And I guess I know it seems vague that these standards are somewhat vague. Does that match like the decor and the feeling of East and that kind of thing? A lot of these tests, the studies that are coming after the concept plan is approved, that's when all of the really heavy lifting happens with us, with the city, with the developer. They start all the way again at the Planning Commission, and it's going to take a bit. It's definitely not a short process. Us passing a concept plan doesn't mean like they're building tomorrow. It means now, hey, we want something. We like the general idea of what we're seeing. Now, spend some of your money to go and get those studies done, because that's when we get into the details. We don't know, right? We don't know enough to do detailed studies. We can do kind of high level, 50,000 feet level type studies right now to say, okay, theoretically if this happens, whatever. But we don't know once they get into it, finding out, okay, if they're doing, for example, a soil study, or they're finding out, oh, maybe you have to shift things, or maybe after doing a traffic study, they don't have the details until they articulate to say, hey, out of all these units, are they 3-bedroom apartments, or is it a 1-bedroom apartment? That really changes how many parking spaces are going to be there. What's the density going to truly feel like? Then we could really get into the granular bits and pieces and where the study really makes a lot of sense. And then that's why the process is built that way. Now I know we don't do PUDs every day. And me as a commissioner, just want to I'm just trying to talk to you guys, say, look, we try our best for the city. We're trying our best to make sure that we all want something. We're hearing you. We're doing our due diligence, and we're doing our best to, within the confinement of the law and what the process is, and understanding how that process works, we're going to do our best to give a final product that we all feel really confident about. And again, I've asked for this before, but a bit of grace. If someone came up here and said, hey, they really like how the city conducts itself. We don't whimsically just decide things. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of thought put into this. And again, this is a shout out to the staff as well. And so we're not treating this any different. And in fact, we do know the weight of this. We do know how this will transform East, and hopefully the goal is that it transforms for the better and not for the worse. So I guess I'm here to talk. Feel free to reach out to me, and I guess I'm speaking on behalf of all the commissioners. All of our information's out there, and happy to walk through even the process. I think there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. It's really hard to combat that, and I do agree with you, this back and forth where only one side talks, the other can't speak back, and whether they're corrections or just sharing, it's hard. But again, I'm available offline to talk, and then I'm sure, I think once we do have a sit down, I'll do my best to explain everything that's going on in my world, and maybe you'll understand a little bit more about the process, and we'll all feel a little bit more comfortable. But again, we're doing the best. We all live in this community. We are your neighbors. I have kids in the system as well. We want to be very careful, and we want to make sure we're smart in how we do this. And again, the process is just beginning, actually, when the concept plan is approved. The heavy lift is going to be everything between that time and when we finally get the final plans put on our desk. And again, we're trusting in the Planning Commission to do the majority of the vetting, heavy lifting. So when it finally comes to our plate, or our table, we're like, great. And then again, even at that point, a lot of things can happen between then and now. And I don't want to, you're going to have time, but I have a lot of friends in the different municipalities that work both for cities as well as in development as developers, saying we've seen a lot of projects that pass concept but never see it come to fruition for one reason or another. So I wanted to just say that there's a lot of movement that can happen, a lot of changes still. We're not locked in and approving, and we're not approving any money either. I think a lot of people are coming up here saying, oh, the brownfield, you already gave TIFs. We didn't, the brownfield BRA is not even established yet. So and that's a completely separate thing. All we're doing is looking at the plans and saying, does the concept kind of match up, align? Does the staff and the utilities all feel comfortable for us to move forward on that high level? And then we're going to go through that process when we really get granular after this. So it'll be a long road, and but I do appreciate everyone's feedback, and I'm welcoming up more. And I think, again, just a bit, I agree about the communication piece, and the more that we can communicate, the more that you'd understand what's on our plate and what we're going through. And I think once we then align and understand we're on the same page, then I think a lot of it might fall in place. So again, feel free to reach out. Happy to, and especially for cocktails or coffee, I'm generally around. Cheers. Thanks.
Commissioner Schwartz, did you have anything to add?
I'll briefly echo that. Always here to talk, and thank you for everybody for your engagement today, for your continued engagement. You are heard. I know I've said this a lot. You are heard, and we do appreciate you coming here. And just to reiterate one of the points, I'd love to talk about my personal views on all of this. I think if you've ever watched us up here in person or online, you'll see me try to pitch some different ways I would do things, but that's not always how we get to make our decisions. We don't get to make decisions based on vibes up here and what we'd like to see. We have to go by certain standards, and there's certainly, Mr. Deems, there's room for argument within each of the standards, but we do have to make all of our decisions, and we work really hard to make our decisions up here based on, looking at things factually, comparing it to the legal requirements, and really doing our best for the community that we love. So I'll just leave it at that. Contact me anytime.
I'll reiterate, I think, some of the points that I made at the top of last meeting, which are pertinent to the conversation that I think is happening up here at the table right now, is that, when I hear calls to know where we stand and to know what we're thinking, everyone I've heard talk about this wants development to happen. So I think it's not so much about like personal opinions about buildings or so forth. I think what we really owe to the community is a transparent public conversation about the standards and how we're interpreting them, because they are, in a number of cases, highly subjective. And for us to have this conversation in public, potentially in a work session format where our rules of order are not so strict, we can do that with citizens watching it. It's not what we personally think about the concept plan now, it's what we're thinking as we are attempting to do our job, which is determine whether or not this concept plan in front of us meets the standards that are in the zoning ordinance. And I just really encourage us to think about taking a different tactic and do that in this type of forum. I think the other piece that I just want to reiterate too about timeline is that, yes, when we look back to the first introduction of this PUD to the community at the Planning Commission, over a year or about a year has passed, I believe. And we have been moving this through the process at the timeline and the request of the developer. We are not dragging our feet. Again, I'll remind us there was a 5-month time frame when the Planning Commission was waiting on a report. We haven't had an item in the last 2 meetings because the developer has pulled it or said we don't want to do it yet. So I think just a reminder that we need to take as much time as we need to take in order to do our job, which is to determine whether or not this PUD amendment and concept plan meets the standards in the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, again, thanks for everybody who came out tonight, and for all the other updates echoed from my fellow commissioners. I just feel that, again, with regards to the topic that most of you brought this evening to public comment, I think, as I've said before, it is an overwhelming majority to see folks who just want a more character of the existing East Grand Rapids community put into this development, and a timeline that parallels more of what the residents feel the timeline should be. For instance, I don't see anybody coming to public comment saying speed the process up. I don't see them saying we want more density or perhaps less green space, right? The message has been fairly consistent and clear, and thus the court of public opinion, I think, has spoken. Jerry, thanks for your document. I'll enjoy, taking a look through that consolidated kind of collection of views and your own independent analysis. Thanks for, all the work on that. I think it just really boils down to due process. So for the residents who have come out and engaged in this process, to speak to us as elected officials, I greatly appreciate your time, to the end that we all share the character of the neighborhood being upheld through this development. We will do our best to gather as a group with your input in mind and come up with the best final product. Thank you.
Thank you. So I really don't have too much to add, just I hope that everyone had a nice Father's Day weekend, and to all the fathers and father figures out there, thank you for all that you do. Your influence spreads to more than just families, it spreads into the community as well. So I hope everyone enjoyed the weekend. And I just wanted to reiterate what my fellow commissioners have been saying. In fact, Commissioner Wesley and I just had a coffee last Friday at the Bagel Kitchen, of course, again, where we had a group of neighbors joining us and talking about just this. So please do take advantage of the times that we do engage. I'm super proud of every single commissioner up here because we all do make ourselves very available. We hold monthly coffees, we hold cocktails with Chris, if you will. Or private meetings. Right before this meeting, I met with 2 residents who had a concern. And so we all make ourselves available to have those extra conversations beyond this, because I know that this isn't the back and forth that we would all like it to be, right? It's just, there's certain rules in place because this is a business meeting doing the business of the city. So it's not that back and forth that we'd all would prefer, I think. So please do take advantage of the times because all of us up here will make ourselves available, like I said, either for coffee, private meeting. I'm super proud of everyone on this commission because we all believe in that and we all follow through on that. So please do reach out to any of us if you want to just have a more private conversation. We'd appreciate it. We look forward to it. So that's all I had. Mr. Charles?
Just a couple things. Reminder, city offices will be closed Thursday for the Juneteenth holiday. And then, as Commissioner Skaggs noted before, the Wednesdays on Wealthy event. So that's all I had.
Yeah, great. Okay, then we can move on to the regular agenda items. First on the agenda, we have to consider approval of a 4-year contract for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Preventative maintenance services for city facilities in the total amount not to exceed $71,287 total for the fiscal years 2025-2026 through 2028-2029. That introduction is by Deputy City Manager, Mr. Lefebvre.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Commissioners. As is noted in the action request item, this is an item we have for all of our facilities that we do typically on a 4-year schedule where we have a contractor that's aligned with us to work with us on a schedule for all of our preventive maintenance for all of our facility needs related to our HVAC systems. Included in the scope of work, I won't list all the items, but we kind of give you a sense of what the scope of services are. So we're replacing belts, we're replacing filters, we're making sure things are lubricated, and essentially operating as efficiently as they can so that we're making sure that our facilities are comfortable for our employees and our residents and guests, and also operating efficiently for the use of the energy that it takes to operate those systems. So we worked with Kent County Purchasing with a bid document for our specifications with our list of all of our HVAC equipment. And we received 4 submittals for those. And as noted, the low bid is with Siemens Mechanical out of Grand Rapids for that total of just over $71,000 over the 4-year period. And that equates to, for the first year, about $14,600 to about $16,000 for that last year of the contract. So with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you may have related to this item.
Are there any additional questions for Mr. Lefebvre? No, thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, could I please have a motion and a second for this agenda item?
So moved.
Second.
Not sure who that was.
It was me. I
And
said,
then maybe me.
it was really long, so I just said so moved.
Okay, wonderful. Is there any further conversation? I think it was either Commissioner Schwartz or Burdick for the second, right? Is that what you're wondering?
Commissioner Burdick.
Commissioner,
Oh.
okay.
I heard
okay.
3 of us.
The tie.
Oh, sorry. Three-way tie, okay.
It sounds like we're all very excited for preventative maintenance for our AC facilities. And I can say this came up in finance, and we did talk. It is nice to do this because from a eco point of view, keeping things in great maintained order will not only keep it on, but will keep it efficient, which is good for our city.
Great point. Okay. No further comments, we can go to a vote. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we have to consider approving the revised meeting schedule for fiscal year 2025-2026. That introduction is by City Manager Charles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the schools have set their spring break and a couple other holidays, so we are recommending an updated schedule, particularly in light of the spring break in March.
Right.
We're taking the same approach that we did this past March of, we end up with 3 meetings in March, but that keeps us from having a 5-week gap in between the other meetings. So we're looking for that balance. But with that, we are recommending approval of the updated meeting schedule.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Charles?
I do have a question. At one point, I remember being told that we try to avoid conflicts with school board meetings as well, which often fall on Monday nights. And I know that we had several conflicts in this past year. So is that something that we try to do? And if so, what's the mechanism for doing that? Because I know, looking ahead, there's going to be some conflicts in this next year as well.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that now that they're getting their schedule lined up, we will check in with the school. Dr. Catula and I try to connect and see if there's ways to move those around. We don't like to jump them around too much because people are used to our rhythm for meeting schedules, but it's something we're aware of. So.
Wonderful. Any other questions for Mr. Charles? Okay. Then can I please have a motion and a second for this agenda item?
Motion to consider approving the revised meeting schedule for fiscal year 2025-26.
Second?
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts?
I know I've mentioned this before, and I think it was in light of when we had a public hearing that kind of conflicted with the winter break, which I know that we've mitigated in this calendar for next year. But I would love for us to write up a commission policy on this particular, on the scheduling of meetings, so that when certain events are triggered, the change is predictable, and we don't have to come back and kind of make these decisions each year. I think it just sets up nicely for that sort of thing.
Any other thoughts? Okay, then we can go to a vote. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we have to consider approving the attached resolution amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. That introduction is by Finance Director C.
Thank you. It's about the end of the year, June 30th, so these are the completed adjustments just to align a lot of the expenses with actuals that we've spent. A couple of things to note in the general fund, which is the main fund. We increased revenue in rec sports and then rec program just because of the increased enrollment in those programs. Interest, again, is coming in wonderful, so we bumped it up. We'll probably be close to about $830 this year, so I bumped it up another 25 to give us a little wiggle room in case we don't. We're able to lower some expenses in public safety and parks due to vacancies for retirements in public safety. And then in parks, we budgeted for the rec supervisor position for the whole year, and that hasn't been filled as of yet. So we were able to decrease expenses there. We did have a bump in, we paid for the parking study, so we changed contracted services to a lot for that parking study that was approved by the commission. And then we are looking we had The carbon, Doug reached out to DTE for the carbon offset program and found that they hadn't billed us for our usage or our participation for 2.5 years. So last month, we got $34,000 from them back because of the gas lights and switching in gaslight to LED. Now we owed them about $64,000. So the net between the two is only about $30,000. So, but now we're caught up with that, and now they know to bill us on a regular basis for that. And then one last adjustment relating to Remington Field. There was a lot of moving parts in that transfer, which we just moved back to the general fund. So it was actually a reduction in expenses for the general fund, where a reduction in revenue for the parks fund because the project wasn't managed under there. Streets stayed the same, no changes in actual appropriation. And we were able to, with all of the interest that we had earned with the original $2 million from ARPA, we were able to contribute another $106,000 to the water sewer fund for lead service lines. We had budgeted originally at $180,000 of use of ARPA funds, but with the interest earnings like we are seeing in the general fund, we are able to contribute another $106,000 to lead service lines.
That's great.
So, and that is it, unless there's any other questions.
Any questions for Ms. Seed?
Just for public record, that's lead service line replacements.
Replacements, yes.
Yes. Very good call.
Replacements, yes. We're going to buy some more.
I just had a quick question just about the DTE thing. Was that just an oversight, or did they have an odd billing cycle? Or
That's a Doug question.
Well, it was a couple things. We had switched over the gas lights in Gaslight Village to like LED electric flame bulbs several years ago, and that was an unmetered account, so they did that off of an estimate, and so their billing department hadn't made that adjustment. And as I was looking at our RNG purchases and our carbon offsets, the math that they had didn't make sense. So I reached out to them to have a sit down with them to go through everything. And so we were able to clean up the credit as Ms. Heath noted, related to usage that we're not using, and then make sure that we had that credit applied to the balance for the Clean Vision program, which accounts for the purchase of RNG from the Grand Rapids wastewater plant or water resources recovery facility, and additional carbon offsets.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Ms. Seed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, please have a motion and a second for this agenda item.
Consider approving the attached resolution amending the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Second.
Any further comments, commissioners? No? Okay. I just want to thank you for your hard work, as usual, with all of the budget issues and just make everything always very clear. So thank you for that. Okay, that being said, all those in favor say yes? Yes. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda items. May I please have a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. So now we will be going into an executive session. We will need to vote to approve to go into executive session. This is regarding a meeting for attorney-client communication in accordance with Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act. We will not be coming back into session, as we will not be voting on anything in this executive session this evening. So thank you, everyone, for coming. May I please have a motion and a second to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so roll call, Lori.
Commissioner Burnett,
Yes.
Commissioner Graf Blasek,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunter,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Yes.
Commissioner Skaggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Wesley,
Yes.
Mayor Favalli.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This motion is, the meeting is adjourned.